Welcome to Detachment Diaries. This channel is about situationships, emotional patterns, and personal growth. I share stories from my past, not to shame anyone, but to understand myself and learn. If you relate to patterns of attachment, ambiguity, or emotional cycles, you're in the right place.
There was a version of me before all of this. A version of me that I can still recognize, but no longer relate to in the same way. She was the girl with low self-esteem, low confidence, the girl who chased men, the girl who tolerated behavior she knew deep down she didn't deserve, just so they wouldn't leave her. She stayed through the inconsistency, the mixed signals, the push and pull. She forgave and forgave and forgave again. Not because it felt right, but because she hoped that maybe this time they would change. She believed in potential more than reality. She feared that if she let go, she might not find anyone else. She feared being alone. She feared being forgotten. She feared being replaced. So she made herself easier to keep. More understanding, more flexible, more chill, even when it meant abandoning parts of herself. There was also a part of her that believed maybe she was only good for one thing, that maybe she was only desirable in a certain way, but not lovable in the way she actually wanted. So she used intimacy as a validation, not always consciously, but in hindsight, it was a way to feel chosen, to feel wanted, to feel enough. And I don't say any of this with judgment, because that version of me was just trying to be loved in the only ways she knew how. But I'm not that girl anymore. Now I'm someone who knows what she wants. And more importantly, I'm someone who is willing to walk away from what I don't want. I don't tolerate bad behavior just to keep someone. I don't convince people to stay. I don't overextend myself just to prove that I'm worth choosing. If something feels off, I trust that feeling. If something doesn't align, I leave. Not dramatically, not emotionally, just calmly. Because I've learned that peace is more important than potential. I'm also no longer afraid to start over. Before, starting over felt like a failure, like I wasted time, like I lost something. But now I see it differently. Starting over is choosing yourself again. And that's never a loss, it's a return. I also reached a point where I became okay with the idea of being alone. Not in a sad way, but in a grounded way. Where I genuinely feel like if I end up single, I still have a full life, a meaningful life, a life that I enjoy. And ironically, it's from that place that dating feels healthier, because now I'm not choosing people out of fear. I'm choosing them or not choosing them from a place of alignment. Another big shift is how I see value. Before, I subconsciously believed that men were the prize, that being chosen by someone meant I was valuable. Now I see it differently. I am the prize. Not in an arrogant way, but in a grounded, self-aware way. I know what I bring into someone's life. And because of that, I don't need constant validation from the outside. I validate myself. And when you have that, everything changes. You stop chasing, you stop proving, you stop settling, you start observing, you start choosing. you start protecting your energy. That doesn't mean I'm perfect. I still have moments where old thoughts come back, moments where I feel triggered, moments where I question myself. But the difference now is I notice it and I don't let it control my actions the way it used to. Because healing isn't linear. Growth isn't a straight line. You don't just arrive and stay there forever. You evolve, you adjust, you relearn, and that's okay. What matters is that I don't stay stuck there anymore. I've been able to walk away from people I once would have stayed for. I've been able to break patterns I once thought I couldn't escape. I've been able to detach from connections that weren't good for me, even when it was hard. And that, to me, is real growth. Not perfection, but change in behavior. Change in choices, change in what you're willing to tolerate. Sometimes I think about that old version of me. And if I could talk to her now, I wouldn't shame her. I wouldn't tell her she was wrong. I would just tell her this: you don't have to try so hard to be loved. The right person won't make you feel confused. And you don't have to lose yourself just to keep someone. And maybe she wouldn't have listened, because I didn't listen back then either. I had to go through it. I had to experience it to finally understand it. And maybe that's just how growth really works. You don't just hear the lesson, you live it. And maybe if you're watching this right now and you see yourself in the version of me that I used to be, I hope you don't judge yourself either. Because you're not weak, you're just learning. And one day, you'll look back and realize you're not that person anymore too. And maybe that's what this whole journey was about. Not just finding the right person, but becoming someone who no longer settles for the wrong ones. And finally, choosing yourself every single time. If you've been following this series, thank you for being here. And if you're new, you can start all the way back. I had a whole lot of videos talking about this stuff. So hope something resonates well with you, and know that you're not alone.